Start recording. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to people around the world. This is your host of the DB2Night Show, Martin Hubel, and we are at episode number Z110. That means we've done 110 shows for DB2 on Z, and we've done over 200 for DB2 LUW. So we've been doing this, this I guess, our 11th or 12th year. Gosh, how time flies when you're having fun. Today, we've got our return of a very special guest, Patrick Bossman from the IBM Silicon Valley Lab. How are you doing today, Patrick?
I'm doing great, and we're going to give 110% today.
Awesome. It's just going to be fantastic. Now, let me carry on and do the normal housekeeping things so we can get on with Patrick's session. We've got a few announcements today. As always, here's our social page. Follow us on hashtag DB2Night is the big thing to follow. That tells you what's going on with the DB2Night Show. We have our LinkedIn group. And we also have replays now on YouTube. So if you don't want to download anything, you can just watch them on YouTube. That's a great improvement for many people. Disclaimer, people own their trademarks. We're recording and all that type of stuff. And this recording is a copyright of DBI 2020, all rights reserved. Now we'll go through our quick announcements, our studio audience poll, and we'll then have a little bit on iDoug as well. And then we will, I'll be watching the Q&A, the question queue, and I'll break in with Patrick from time to time to ask those questions. I have the fall program fully done now. Don't have all of the abstracts or things put up on the website yet, but that'll happen very shortly. For LUW, next week we've got Ian Bjorhovde of Extivia talking about a Docker cookbook, practical recipes for running DB2 with Docker. Next, we'll have two IBM Toronto Lab presentations. Dave Kalmick will talk about the new adaptive workload manager for DB2 LUW, and then we have a presentation on machine learning and AI with Sheikh Kader of the IBM Toronto Lab. Our next Z shows are distributed access to DB2 with Christian Malaro of Mindbridge in Belgium. Christian's sometimes even a fill-in host for the DB2Night Show. He's a longtime friend. And also another longtime friend of mine is Dan Luxtatich, and he'll be talking on index topics in December. So we've got that fleshed out, and life is good. As always, DBI Software is the founding host of the DB2Night Show, and they have a demo of their products. You can watch at that link. If you do, they send you a nice gift card. And the winner from last week is our friend Chuck. Chuck has been a long-time supporter of the DB2Night Show in our audience, and he's won the gift certificate for last week's show.
Congratulations, Chuck.
Yes, congratulations to Chuck. That's great. And our sponsors are the DBI and Martin Hubel Consulting, which is basically yours truly, and that's great. The other sponsor we have on our website is iDoug, and we've been longtime friends and partners with iDoug in terms of supporting their conferences and making sure they're aware of what's going on, our community is aware of what's happening with iDoug, and so I'll show a little bit on iDoug in a minute as well. There's the new page for the DBI Monitor Suite. This is a new monitor they announced in July, and that looks really good. And again, it's helping people not only diagnose performance problems, but ensure service levels to their customers. Being the DB2Night Show Z edition, we will not be doing a demo of the DBI suite as a full commercial here. We just like to let people know that the screens are available and the product is available for the LUW customers. Now for IDUG, they've announced it's going to be virtual next year. With COVID still hanging over our heads, it's pretty hard to know what to do, so everybody's going virtual. And right now, the IDUG virtual conference in the summer of next year is accepting their abstracts now. And again, we were supposed to be in Dallas this year, and that didn't happen, but they did it as a virtual conference, and they're doing it again. And if you'd like to speak at the virtual conference, you can send in your abstracts by the end of October. And they're offering different time slots this year, 30, 60, and 120 minutes. You can choose which length you want. You can opt out of the live session and instead pre-record your presentation. Some people do that. I did that recently for the conference that was to be in Edinburgh, but will be done next month virtually. You use Zoom, and there's a person to coach you through that and make it easy. You could stop. It's really nice when you pre-record. If you make a slip up, you can just go back and fix it. Unlike this show, where every single mistake I make can be referred to for years afterwards. And there are various topics you can go through. And looking ahead to 2021, we're excited about the IDUG community, and I can include myself in that because I've been a volunteer of IDUG since 1989. We're excited that the IBM DB2 community will come together, and we're aware that it's not possible to meet in person, etc. We'll be doing this for at least another year by the sound of it. Hopefully we won't, because we're supposed to get together in Edinburgh in October next year. So 1 year from now, maybe we'll get to see smiling faces, even if we're only seeing the eyes smile. And, stuff like that. Also, this is an old joke, but I like it because I live in Canada. We had a really hot summer, and the original Stumpy the Snowman lasted for 27 years. And that being in Canada, you know, the cold summers we can have. But unfortunately, this might be an indication of climate change. Stumpy 2 has melted again. He's just 3 years old, and this is what we have left. So we'll have to try for a new Stumpy next year and see just how long it goes. And it might be that we never have a Stumpy that survives more than 1 year from now on.
Mm-hmm. Where is Stumpy?
Well, right now he's down in between those stones.
He must be far north?
It would have to be a little further north than Toronto, I can tell you that. But, you know, as soon as you come across the border, instantly everything gets colder in Canada. That's why we're all thick-blooded, hardy people that we are in Canada, with moderate senses of humor. So now we're into the polling section of our pre-show here, and these are important because they help us help our speakers understand the audience they have. So let me launch the first polling question, and that's going around now. What's the newest version of DB2Z are you currently running? I'm assuming everybody's running it. And this is getting better and better in terms of the number of people that are on current versions of DB2 V12. That's great to see. And people have had 30 seconds to answer that, so we'll show you that. And you can see that the highest are still at the base level, but there are many more people up to function level 503 or higher. That's great news, and far fewer people down in the lower numbers there.
Interesting.
We'll hide that and move on to the next question, which is, which of the following commercial databases do you run? And I'm launching that. I'm assuming that 100% of our audience is running DB2 on Z because you're attending a Z show, but here's the other things that people have. You get to choose anything that applies.
You don't think I have crossover appeal?
Yeah, It's amazing these days. I think that everybody has some crossover appeal in terms of what
I do get some for the DevOps type things. I do see some LUW pop in.
Yeah. Well, and people have had a chance to vote on that. I'll share the results. And you notice that we've got IMS, other mainframe DBMSs, and we also have, well, everything gets a click, mostly DB2 LUW on our IBM friendly audience here. And we'll move along and just to get an idea of where people are in their career right now. And we've simplified this down. Instead of years, we've said, how do you consider yourself in terms of mid-career, late career, early career, et cetera, and seeing how that looks from a voting point of view.
We could have went how much experience, but I don't know. How do you ask this now?
You know, if we do it this way, people are allowed to be a little. It's an interesting, different way than saying number of years. But let me close that off and share the results. And you'll see our audience is mostly made up of mid to late career, meaning very experienced people.
All right.
And move along. Whoops. I'll hide that and move along to the next question. What is your role? I guess I only allowed each person to pick one role so they can choose their spots there. People are now, a higher percentage of our audience is now voting. That means that people are used to the idea of the polls coming up. And we'll close that after 30 seconds and share the results there. And you see we have mostly DBAs and system programmer types, and but we do have a number of developers in today as well.
Yeah, I would lump the first two together a little bit, and that's good.
Yeah. And we asked these questions recently on another show, and people are moving towards continuous integration and continuous delivery for mainframe applications. And it's interesting. People are, it's interesting to see the voting on this.
So I'll give a little background. These questions are really valuable to us. The where we invest right now can be shaped by what people are adopting and what we think they'll need, you know, soon versus later.
Right.
So both this and what types of, you know, do we work on the IDE first or integrating with CI/CD pipelines? So these are really helpful to us.
Yes, and you notice that about over 50% of the audience is really into that now.
Yeah, that's good.
That are yet to be there. It depends on the industry, depends on what other pressures they have. Sometimes you're so busy doing something you don't have the chance to look around and do something else.
Yeah.
And here's the last question I had kicking around. It says, improving developer agility is important to our organization. And this is interesting how quickly people have voted. Of course, this is a rather easy question. It's kind of yes, no, but having said that, let's close that off and share the results. And that shows that we are now 87% of the audience says yes. So that's important to know as well. So with that in mind, we should be back to my screen. And there's you. And so with you being in there, let me just come down here and find you. And I'm making you the presenter.
All right. Let me see. Okay, good. I have to choose my screen.
Yeah. And I
Very
see
good.
your screen.
I have 3 screens, so I'm like, which one is it going to pop up here?
Yeah. I'll be watching the question queue.
Okay.
And I'll break in if there are any questions.
So I welcome questions. One of the things that we're, a lot of times when we will have some of our advisory councils and leadership councils, we get a heavy skew of systems programmers and DBAs, system DBAs, operational nature. And it can be a challenge for us to reach developers. And so we would like to get, some direct engagement from developers. And sometimes when we hit developers, we end up hitting developers that have been working with DB2 for a long time. And we really want to get the word out about what I'm talking about today to the next generation of developers, because they tend to use these tools that we're starting to integrate with. And we want to show them that we are plugging into the tool suites they use for other languages and SCMs that they use, and get them starting to kick the tires and experimenting with DB2, right? All right, so you can follow me on LinkedIn. I used to do query performance, and so people were looking at optimization, they would follow me on LinkedIn. Now I also do, I am leading the transformation of the developer experience and administrator experience for DB2Z. But I also do a lot of crossover with COBOL and, the transformation of using Unix system services commands and things of that nature. So I have a lot, there's a lot more that comes across my LinkedIn than what it used to be. So, think about that. So what are we going to talk about today? It's going to be demo heavy. I'm going to give an overview of what we're doing, show how I use Visual Studio Code, show our new DB2 developer extension, which we GA'd in July of this year. And we're using continuous delivery for this extension. And so we'll have another drop coming very soon. There will be some futures in this presentation, so I will be specific about what is available today, what's coming in, I would say imminently, matter of before Thanksgiving. How about that? And then what's kind of coming in the near-term horizon. The developer extension is no charge. VS Code is Visual Studio Code. It's open source. And I'll get into that when I get into the demo. And a couple other extensions that are very valuable for mainframe developers. All right, so what are we trying to do with we're having a transformation of the user experience. And we're moving on from Eclipse rich client, where it's heavy, it's bulky, it's not compatible with a web-based interface. The VS Code extension, VS Code that I'm running is running on my workstation. Extensions created for VS Code, ours runs with no code change to Eclipse Thea, which is also the foundational, the IBM Red Hat code-ready workspaces are based on Eclipse Thea, and so the extension works in there. So we're able to, as we refactor into the VS Code extension, integrating into that platform, it's opening us up to have a more portable set of features that will be useful not just for VS Code, but a variety of other code editors, and well positioned for a cloud native future. One of the key objectives is we want to increase the developer talent pool. We want to reduce the Z domain specific skills that are required to develop, code, debug, tune applications on DB2 for ZOS. And we want people to be able to develop faster while retaining high quality. The other, kind of selfish goals is we want anything that we build some of these front-end systems, they disappear. So we want our design to be reusable, portable, easy to integrate without rewriting the back end. And VS Code lets us do that. And we want to align with our System Z counterparts. I will show part of what you can do. I'm not going to get into it too much, but if you haven't heard of it, there's an IBM Z Open Development extension that's available. And I'll show a couple other extensions I use that are helpful working with DB2 for ZOS. All right, so how are we going to transform DB2? So the VS Code is useful for all developers. You could be, you know, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I started in '93. I graduated from Western Illinois University. So I've been, I don't know, that's a lot of years. I'm not doing the math. But it's nice. I like VS Code. It's lightweight. So you can be an old developer and use it, but the new developers, it's the editor of choice, right? It has 50% market share. And it was released in 2015. So from a code editor perspective, nothing before had cracked 35%, and now VS Code in 5 years is up to 50%. Part of it is the extensibility and rich extension ecosystem that it has. So we want Deb to be able to code, debug, tune, Java, COBOL, PL1, Node, you know, write SQL, SQL scripts, code, analyze, run, tune, SQL statements, code, debug, tune, DB2 store procedures, develop DB2 native REST services, all from the same, from her workspace, which is in this embodiment VS Code. I mentioned before market leading, why VS Code is the market leading IDE. You know, 2019 Stack Overflow survey, 50%. It's now over 50%. I think I read somewhere it's like 51, 52, 53. Climbing. You can see the Eclipse rich clients down here at 14%. So what are the key points? Why? And I'll show, we're going to get into the demo. Lightweight launches really fast. The footprint is light, but then you add the extensions that help you do your work. Broad language support, broad Z support. Zowe, there's a Zowe extension, which I'll show later, IBM Z Open Development extension, DB2 extension. You can run it in the cloud. You can run it in Kubernetes. The IBM WASI code ready workspaces are based on Eclipse Thea and can use the VS Code extensions. Rich Git integration. Git from a source control management perspective is eating the world. Terminal support. I'll probably pull up the web server and show you just a massive number of extensions. It's open source, and yeah. All right, so one of the issues, it used to be when you wanted to write, provide the ability to code, debug, and tune in an editor, an IDE, you used a lot of interfaces in the IDE platform, and Eclipse Rich Client is one of those. And you would have, for X languages, if you wanted to support Y IDEs, there's X times Y. And these things aren't generating revenue. They're provided at no charge. So it's a really expensive proposition from a development organization to support multiple IDEs. And part of VS Code that got introduced, and it's not exclusive to VS Code, Language Server Protocol and Debug Adapter Protocol, where you decouple the services you're providing to the editor from the editor itself, and you write a language server and a debug adapter, which are the backends, and you plug them into VS Code, Eclipse Thea. And so now we're getting into, you write one language server, one debug adapter, and you could plug into multiple editors. So our principal editor that we're targeting is VS Code, but we also test with Eclipse Thea, and we've started to test with Eclipse Rich Client as well, the same backend. So whenever somebody comes out with the Willy Wonka IDE and it becomes the next big thing, we don't have to, try and build a massive team to create and plug into that next IDE. Some language server protocol clients, VS Code, Eclipse, Thea, Rich Client, Vim, Emacs, but we're targeting VS Code as primary. All right. Some of the basic features, and so GA, and some of these have a video attached to them, and I'll provide that when the deck is uploaded, but I'm gonna go to a live demo when we're done. In July, we had SQL syntax checking, highlighting, and snippets. And I guess I said pre-Thanksgiving, so you've got a USA bias with all of my phrases here. Pre-election USA. Code completion, code folding, run SQL, bring your own license. So the connection to DB2 is coming soon, but it requires you have a DB2 Connect license. Further into the future, we'll have, and I'll have a demo of the store procedure, debug, and deploy. That is on the roadmap. Creative native REST services, I'll show an alternate way to do that today. And DeclGen support are other things that are coming soon. Right. All right. So I'm going to drop for a second, and not really drop. Move this out of the way. And are there any questions? This is a good time to pause for a moment. See if anybody had any questions before I start the demo. Like, no, man, I came for the demo. Get to the demo, please. All right. So this is VS Code.
I actually did have a question here for you, but I was struggling to get my headset so I could have the mic near my mouth. And question from John. And it's he's curious about the licensing for DB2 and VS Code. They're also investigating the Zowe plugin. Are there any licensing considerations there?
It's open source. VS Code is open source. So do we have a follow-up question on that? The Zowe is also open source, if you haven't heard of Zowe.
So they're included in the DB2 base license, any requirement from the DB2 side? It's open. It's not associated with the DB2 for ZOS product. VS Code is like Eclipse. The Eclipse Rich Client is also an open source project, but VS Code is a separate open source project. And Zowe is an open source project that is associated with the three founding members were IBM, Rocket, Broadcom, but there's other companies that have integrated, and there is distribution that you can either download for free and install with SMPE for the web-based part, and there's a CLI, and we're using the Zowe extension, which I have right here, is available. It's the command line interface part, but you can get a support contract through IBM if you wanted that, or just like but it's also no charge distribution, right? Okay. So there's the same with Node.js is delivered in a similar way. That you can get it at no charge, but you pay for a support contract if you're going to build, production applications on it. You don't want to have something that's not supported. Okay. All right. Thanks.
So a lot of times, and I guess I've been embedded in this, I don't realize that sometimes people go, oh, did IBM create this? No, VS Code is open. Here I'm showing Python. Got syntax highlighting for Python. Rex, I wrote a little Rex for the team. They wanted to know which DB2s are active and what is the Zeek farm. So I wrote a little Rex to scrape STSF, so you can see nice syntax highlighting here in Rex. But not just, so those are mainframe, Python and Rex. Python runs on the mainframe. Don't know if you knew that. Node.js also now runs on the mainframe. We have Ansible running on the mainframe. And so you can see nice syntax highlighting for the YAML file, which is how you code automation scripts for Ansible, right? These are some scripts, automation scripts that clean up after I do a demo of another product. But I just like to play with all of the things and try them out. For a coding club, this is a Docker file. I just want to give you a feel that the breadth of capability of the extensions of VS Code. I think there's 14,000 extensions. And so here are the ones that this is on the, these are all the files. You can see my file layout. And as I click on different files, they're coming up in the editor, right? And part of the IBM Open Editor, we've got JCL editing, they have COBOL, PL1 that are also included in for the Z Open Editor. It's not a real interesting registering a user catalog, but you could see the JCL support there. Let's see, go to the extensions. So here's and this is a this is, internal. We don't have V0.2 is not available. It would be V.1 is on the marketplace, but you could see what's the description right from VS. People say, how do I get your extension? So, well, you go right to in VS Code, you install VS Code, bring up the extensions, and you click, this would be install if I didn't have it, right? So you search for DB2, DB2 developer extension, I have a link to it, and you just click install and bang, you're all set. Here's a license if somebody was asking. I don't actually remember what the license is here. And my browser's launching. All right, so there you go. Right. I think it's IPLA license, whatever that means. The lawyers. So repository. So first of all, if you like what you see here today, and I'm going to mention this again at the end, please review and rate. If you want to see investment, seeing engagement with customers is really helpful for us to say, yes, this is an important direction for us to go. If you want to engage with us and say, I want something different, I want more features, we're right here on GitHub, public GitHub, and you can open, we have a couple of enhancement requests. I want to be able to browse simple data. I want PDS support. And so please, public, go ahead, open an issue, engage with us, talk to us, tell us where you want us to go, right? I'm looking forward to all of that. All right. Back to the extensions marketplace. So I picked up a couple. IBM Z Open Editor, other languages, Python. I use this REST client, and I'm going to drop in to create DB2 native REST services. I can, this REST client, if I create a certain type of file, HTTP file with the REST call, I'm going to show that in a second. I click a button, and it will issue the REST call instead of using something like Postman. So I'm using a rec syntax highlighter and the Zowe Explorer. So, so let me jump into DB2 for a little bit. Poked around and I'll come back. And feel free to flood the box with other questions if you like. So for another conference, I created a table editor full stack. Where am I at here? So we see we've got a terminal down here, and I've logged, I know this is my user ID on my MVS system. So I know that I'm on ZOS here. In Unix system services, I can get out and SSH straight in, see a connection. And I did certificate, so I don't have to enter password. I had a so here's the active DB2. Show a little Rex, right? Shows me the DB2 subsystem ID, the start command, and the cparm module. And let me go to the table editor here. And So this brings up, just showing you what we can do through here. So this is my server ID, and go into customers. That's just hit an endpoint. Got to add my suffix on there. And this is the web app that's running, right? So I can insert a record, or if I make my window bigger, see the editors, I can edit, right, or delete. And I use something called ZingGrid to do this. They have a really nice API, but can do that right from the panel. And I'm going to kill this. But I want to show you that there's live stuff working in here. That's this application, right? So I wrote a web app that let me find invoke list customers. So this is the HTTP is the extension, and so this is using the REST client extension. It's connected to my UTEC 492, which is my server. I gave it some connection information, and this is going to invoke a DB2 native REST service. And so we get back the records that the web page is also showing, right? So I can hit that. I'm really making a REST call. This is straight into DB2. And this one, the web page, the HTML calls the Node.js server, which takes the get and calls a native REST service that's created for DB2, right? All right, so this is the SQL version. So let me show you the create. I just want to show you this is all just working code, right? So create list customers. So here's if I already created this REST service, but the creation of REST services can also be done with REST. And so this is the select statement that retrieves all of the records from customers. There's no where clause, so it lists all the customers, collection ID, service name. So right from VS Code, I can use that to create native REST services. All right, so this one's based on SQL. I did it 3 ways. Another way is using a native store procedure. So this is where as I switch file types, we're switching which extension is controlling and helping me. So this is the REST client extension, is making nice coloring, giving me this action. And this one, we're into the DB2 extension. And I used to have my coloring set to Philadelphia Eagles colors. I somehow disabled that, and I'm gonna have to figure out how to put that back. So that's what I want. All right, so you see the highlighting, right? This is available today. And the other thing that's available today are snippets, which are these little boxes down here, create trigger. So if you couldn't remember the syntax for create trigger, it helps you out, right? I'm gonna delete that one. The other one that was, we actually didn't have this when I created my original demo, but I wish I did, because I couldn't remember the syntax for create procedure. So bang, I just dropped the create procedure down in there. We don't have, so one of the things we're looking for feedback from customers if they download and play with this is, what other types of extensions do they want to see? So the 2 that I showed you available right now, and by the way, if you install it right now, one of the nice things about VS Code is when there's an update, it's going to tell you. So we're going to say, hey, there's another version. Do you want to update it? And you can say yes, and bang, you're done. So there's no real need to say, oh, I'm going to wait, right? It's so easy. It's 5 seconds to install this. There's no reason to say, oh, I need to wait, till after Thanksgiving. I'll do it on my Christmas holiday. No, take it now, right? All right, so for run SQL, I don't want to do the delete. It's not that interesting. I don't have run SQL. I don't have a working copy, but the direction we're looking to go with when we get connections and running SQL is you should be able to highlight the SQL, you should be able to right-click it, and you should be able to run it, right? run selected. The other option would be run all, which is, this is a SQL script, and you should be able to run the whole file. So the idea is whatever services we provide, if they're SQL based, we should be able to perform actions against, you know, the selected SQL or the SQL that are in the file. So that's our strategic direction on this one. What else did I want to say about this one? Oh, let me cause my test SQL here. What does it look like if you don't have the extension working, right? So there, you get nice plain white text, right? So I renamed the file to text. Here it is with SQL. You can see it recognizes that it's a database, and we get the nice coloring. I may cause syntax error. You see the squiggly. You see it turned red. You see it turned red over here, right? So it's trying, hey, there's a problem. You're, you know, don't commit this file. It's not right. Now it's fixed, so introduce another error, but coming soon. This is see, this is working code, so we'll be dropping this code. You know, this was my before Thanksgiving promise. Char. Oh, the syntax checking is also coming soon. The char here, you can flip through the manuals and say, what do I, you know, what are the different data types that are possible? So there's embedded help as you're writing your SQL code. So that's kind of nice, right? And if it's not good enough for you, then click on the link, drop you right into the appropriate part of the manual. All right. I have two terminals. SSH is on MVS, and Bash is on this terminal. So if I want to, the other thing that's nice, I don't, if you're a developer, you know, the Git integration. I don't know if actually, do I have anything to change? Yeah, I've got. So I made a change here. What did I do? I don't know if I want to. I can't even tell what I. Oh, I changed this. So I've changed this. Git add. See if we picked it up. So create delete customer. All right, so this is actually validation. After I create the procedure, in my script, I call it with a value to have it test out, make sure that the store procedure is working. So I changed the entry. So I pushed it up to the server, Git, which I have run on GitLab, and then I can switch over. Taking this time. All right. So where is this one? Full stack DB customers. Typos are free. They come at no charge. And I like to have a lot of them. No such file. I think it's this one. And there we can see I picked up the change, right? So just using Git to, I have Git running on my client, on my Mac, GitLab server in the middle, using Rocket Git on ZOS in Unix System Services, and using that to move my code around. So that's these are the capabilities that you can do with DB2. Let me jump really quick, and while I'm on DB2 directly, show you what's coming with stored procedures. It's pretty nice. So one of the things you're trying to see is people want to be productive right away, right? If you onboard next generation and you just toss them in a green screen, then it's a real struggle for that team member to help you. And so one of the things that integrating with the tool suites that the next generation knows is that they can actually help some of us older people learn new skills, right? And they can become productive on the platform faster. There's a lot of parallel things going on at the same time. In recent years, we brought Node.js and Python, IBM's Python distribution. It's very current. They just released another Git. There's something called Z Open Automation Utilities that lets you do data set type things in Unix system services, and it integrates into Python and Java. So I want you to recognize that if you're looking to transform on System Z, you should get plugged in, and there's really a lot going on. Some of it's by DB2, and some of it is by the rest of System Z. There's Ansible modules for Z. Okay, so here's what the debugger is going to look like. And what's really nice is it looks like, you know, you're debugging any other language. So we drop in, created a breakpoint on the create procedure, and you'd see the input value, right? The bonus count and salary are output, so they're not set, and department number is input. All right. Set breakpoints down here. Sorry, you can't see the controls up there. They got blanked out. But as we hit the breakpoint, we're showing what all of the variables are, what they get set to. You could step into, step through, set an endpoint when you're exiting to see what the final result is. But how you debug the stored procedure will be similar to how, you know, it's going to be very comfortable, familiar in the same tool that the developers that are writing, you know, web apps like I have here, Ansible, you can do it all, right? That's the goal. Is we want them to be able to flip over, have a very familiar, comfortable environment where they can, you know, write stored procedures, write SQL, do the things they need to do to access DB2 from their code, and then flip back to what they're doing, right? So this is the node server when I showed you earlier. The web server is nice. Just a table editor, but it's written in JavaScript, right? Running on Z. So you can flip between JavaScript that has this one. This is the embodiment that runs, you know, when I hit the customer API from the web, it calls DB2 and runs the SQL statement, and then we return the results back to the browser that called us, right? So you can flip between the different parts of your application, you know, all from the same editor. So that's one of the key things that we're trying to deliver. Are there any other questions so far? Let me take a pause for a moment. Martin, are you there?
Yes, I just have to unmute myself.
Okay.
All right. First thing is one question from Joe on using ZTSO instead of Z Unix. Is that a possibility?
So let me, any other questions? That's a good one. I'll jump over and show a little bit of what you can do with TSO in a second. Any other?
Yeah, and where does the Zowe extension or the Zowe Explorer play here?
So were those separate questions?
Yeah, there's two together from Jim. So good. I kind of asked them together.
No, that's good because the answer is the same. So one of the extensions, you see the Z on the side, and we've got a data set explorer, Unix system services and jobs, right? So I'm looking at SDSF. Did you see that? It's issuing REST calls there's two ways that the Zowe extension can call DB2. It can use ZOSMF to make REST calls.
Yeah.
Or there's a new way that I haven't set up yet. There's a separate server, and I think it's similar to what was used by IDZ.
Yeah.
But I'm not positive on that. So, but here's my Jez message log. Oh, whoops, right? I have a volume offline. That's not good. Anyway, so we can look at job output, and I can search, right? So job owner, send your parameters there. Close that one. Unix system services. This is actually on Z, so it's grabbing the file. I could download the file, but a lot of times I'll just edit it right on Z, and it's going to update it on ZOS itself. This is the Unix system services one. And yeah, I have a lot of junk, right? That's a lot of garbage in there. So other thing I want to point out, I'm opening files on Z, and so I'm using the Zowe Explorer, but it's also using the syntax highlighting for the file extension. So the Rex extension that I'm using to do syntax highlighting is working on files on ZOS, and that's not delivered by the Zowe extension. So these extensions complement each other. That's the point I'm trying to make. And data sets, right? This is, so I was playing around with this morning to see what I wanted to show y'all. And so it's this Atom Live JCL. I'm gonna have to do a better job of not putting my SQL in a JCL library so you can get the syntax highlighting to work. But that's why it's not highlighted that's not JCL, right?
Right.
And you could see I'm terrible at it. So let me find, that's COBOL. I gotta have some, yeah, here's some JCL, right? Right. So yes, you can navigate around your data sets and edit them, download them. Let me see. I'm not the expert on this one. I see people talk about submit job. I'm not going to submit this one because I don't know what it can do. But
good idea.
I didn't test that one.
And also you've got a whole bunch of exclamation points in there that need to be updated, shall we say?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I could. You know what? Who cares, right? It's Friday. My systems can get reset this weekend. What's the worst that could happen? Failed. Not recognized as a job. Okay.
Yeah. You got a bunch of things and other things you got to worry about on that.
Tip 2. Yeah. This is pretty close. 6 version 6. This is a brand new JCL. I just wrote this the other day.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that
like my garbage collection.
Kind of edit.
So let me make sure I hit all my high notes here.
Yeah.
I showed you REST, install, review repositories, snippets, run SQL store procedure. Yeah, I hit most of the main topics. Anything else that people? Oh, let me go. I have one test SQL here. I'm gonna go back to the main window.
Yeah. I've got a few more questions here for you.
Okay.
Got an active audience here. I see you have shells.sh next to create list customers nsp.sql. Do the shells use Zowe CLI, the DB2 plugin?
The shells,
Yeah.
you mean these? This is just a shell script, bash script.
Yeah.
And I'm not done yet. Actually, this code is on the internet. So if anybody wants to collaborate with me, I'm all for it.
Great.
But where I was going with this, I was creating automated deployments, and I just haven't finished it. But this was to run DB2 command line processor, which I don't think I showed that. Did I?
Not sure.
I'm pretty sure I didn't. So let me get. I do want to show that. That's another thing that people don't realize is there.
Yeah.
So test SQL, table edit.
So
fire away. If you got any other questions, fire away.
Got a bunch here. What requirements do I have for software on ZOS for this stuff to work? And that also is a follow-up with you need Zowe on ZOS.
All right. So you don't need Zowe. You need, for the Zowe extension to work, you need ZOSMF. You don't actually need Zowe on Z for the extension to work.
Right.
If you use the GSE, the connection, like instead of ZOSMF, then you would need that. There's a server accepting the requests. Right. But without that, Zowe is using ZOSMF, the Zowe command line interface extension. There is, so I'm going to go ahead and bring up Zowe. I have Zowe running. I think I have Zowe running. You know what? I don't know if I started it. Well, I didn't prepare for that. You can have, there's a Zowe web user interface that you can also install on ZOS. Mm-hmm. And so these explorers that you see in VS Code, you can also have, they're on the Zowe virtual desktop. So if you're running the desktop on ZOS, then that would work. For the DB2 extension, right now there's nothing. It's totally disconnected. When you, even what we're going to deliver this year through store procedures, it's using DB2 Connect. So that's on the client. If you have a DB2 Connect license, then you'd probably want to enable it with the Activate Connect utility, so you don't need to deal with the license file. So that's a server-side thing. I would recommend installing all of the administrative store procedures, just because once you start doing things like this, like you get people that want to do Unixy things. You can run the procedures through Unix system services in batch, and then you can grep them, which is something that I want to show. Right. And anything else? The REST client does not install on Z. That's totally outside. So, yeah.
Okay.
Well, to run my web server, I installed Node, right? But that's the application itself. So that's an app, and there's a Python distribution that you would need Python on Z. To run Ansible, you need Python on Z. If you want to run Node applications, you need Node on Z. And a lot of these, don't hold me to it, but a lot of them are no charge with, paid services support. So if you want to run a production application, then you definitely want support. If you're tinkering around on it, you can download it and use it, right? All right.
And one last question from Nick, and he says, first off, go Eagles. I don't know what that means, but yes. The question is, we store all of our stored procedure files on our mainframe PDS. Are you able to link the PDS to get through VS Code? So if you modify a data set, create a proc, will it update the version in Git?
So I have seen somebody that had ISPF Git. I have not played with that. So that I would give a hearty maybe. And if you send me email offline, then we can work through that. There are the ZOS open automation utilities. I would have some conversations about what could be done there, right? But I haven't pursued that. Have you thought about have you thought about putting them in Unix system services? I guess that's in a file. That would be something I would, and then go straight into Git. I think that's what most people would start to transform to, but it's probably possible. I just haven't done it yet, and I would want to connect somebody to be able to do that.
Okay, that's the end of me. So I'm going to turn it back to you.
All right, so let me, I wanted to show, see, where is my secret test SQL here? I put it under, so sometimes I put garbage. It's not where it really should be. but okay, I'm going to show them this. So now I can't remember the syntax. It's DB2 CLP. That's the one I want. Yeah, I can't remember anything. I'm going to be kind. Database connection does not exist. Oh, why did I take that out? Well, I got to do it on the server. So oh yeah, let me show you one other tool I have. There's two ways I could do this. I could use Git here and pipe it over. I also have Vim installed. Oops, I didn't type anything. So it's just a, let me comment this out. So first, just run the test SQL, display all the system parameters, right? Display. And let's try one more time. So I want to see all the para mday cparms. So now we can use some of the Unix type commands to grep it. So that's another nice handy thing. And so I do have Git here, so I could. Well, apparently I did a syntax error. So one of the challenges with the syntax is we end up with some of the, when I want to do something for command line processor, some of the text is not, it's command line processor commands and not, I need to add the terminator, SQL terminator in this one. So I don't have that, so I'm just going to ignore it. And now I'm going from ZOS, git commit, not comment, updated test.sql. Did I comment again? All the typos are freeze, right? No charge. All right, so now we go from ZOS, and I flip back over and pull it down. Oops. I'm not going to deal with that. So you don't want to really be modifying things on both sides. So I would have to deal with that. All right. Command line processor, you can run it, but soon you'll be able to run this straight from VS Code. Right now I got to flip over, use terminal, use command line processor because I don't have connect to DB2, run SQL in the extension yet. Any other questions?
Yeah, Jürgen was asking if there's a workshop from IBM available on this topic for practicing testing with a customer.
That's a great question, and I will note it. Actually, when Martin invited me here, I thought I'm just going to come on here and show the way I do things now, and give you a wide variety. But I don't think there's. I'll have to check because some of this is System Z, and that's a great suggestion. So not that I know of at the moment, but entirely possible to consider that and see what we could do. And I would be interested in any conferences or venues that you'd be interested in consuming something like that. We really do want to get people, up and running and comfortable doing these sorts of things and finding a consumable way for them to do it.
Yeah, and another question from Jim: what needs to be in place to connect to DB2 on the VS Code side? Is there just a DB2 server plugin?
So they'll install the so you install the extension, right?
Yeah.
And the extension will bundle the data server driver, but it does not include the license. Okay. So you have to have the data server driver code will be there. And I don't have the version that has the SQL connection in here, but there's a configuration where you tell us, you point us to where the license server is, or if you have the DB2 Connect universally enabled on the server side, it should just work. And there'll be, similar to how you have Zowe and I can configure connections and search for things, there'll be a little DB2 DevOps experience icon that'll pop up, and you would configure a connection to your DB2s. And I know that connection pops up, down here. But you don't need, other than if you do the universal license on the server side, you don't need anything on the host. So I'm going to go back to the slides because I want to, I had some things I wanted to from current. All right. All right. So I learned to embed video right in the presentation. So I want to give that to you. You'll have it. Here's some links. Where is VS Code? Whoops. I'm going to click that. Where's our extension? The REST client that I used Bash. I didn't use curl, but if you go to the Rocket Ported tools, it's like grocery shopping, right? I pulled down the Git client for ZOS, Vim, Bash. I have coloring in Vim, so I can't remember where I got it from, but it didn't come with Vim out of the box. So if somebody goes, oh, I have Vim, but I don't have any colors, then just shoot me an email. Node.js, Open Python, DB2 command line processor is part of DB2 for ZOS, right? So it's optional install. Make sure you've installed the DB2 command line processor if you want to run SQL scripts in USS. And there is an interactive SQL processor. So I have an ask. If you like the extensions, if you like us investing in this area and trying to move forward, we need engagement with developers, right? Please show your support by downloading the extension and give it a try. We can see how many downloads we have. We can see users and sessions. There's telemetry in VS Code. We don't have this for things like Data Studio or DB2 itself. We really have no idea how you're using the product, how many people are using it, other than asking, right? And having you tell us or return queries or something like that. With VS Code, we can see. Not too much, it's anonymized. I can't tell who you are, what company you work for, anything like that. I can tell what file extensions through my extension that you're opening. So I could tell if you're running DDL, SQL, store procedures, if the extensions are different. And we can tell how many users we have. And it's very helpful for us when we try to justify resourcing on things like this if we have high use, right? Recommend and replay, tell a friend, review the extension on the VS Code Marketplace. All these things are very helpful to us. If you have issues, suggestions, or features you'd like to see, we're right out there in the public on GitHub. So click on the link. You can get to this also through the VS Code extension itself. So we'd love to hear from the people that are going to consume this and try and radically improve the next generation and current generation of developers on Z and help them be productive and able to use tools they use for other things. And that's all I have. So if there's any other questions, I could take them. Otherwise,
I've got
happy Friday.
I've got a couple. Marcus had a couple here. He's one question is, how easy is it to write your own Zowe-based extension for VS Code? How do you begin? And let me read the rest of his questions here, and maybe it'll all tie together. Will the Python library IBM DB be available for USS? And I use all the extensions, would like to extend some of them.
So the Python, stay tuned. That is, there's some changes that have to happen to DB2 itself. So there'll be some DB2 maintenance that'll come out. We do intend to support Python on DB2. I don't have a date. Can't promise a date. But it's not really far out in the future. So the answer is going to be yes. Send me a note. What were the other questions? How hard is it? The syntax highlighting and snippets are very easy. We didn't write a Zowe extension, so I really couldn't tell you. Ours isn't dependent on Zowe. What I was showing is that if you have Zowe and our extension, they complement each other, and even on the same file, they can be used to show me the file, and then it's got my extension on it, so I can do the highlighting and all the services that we provide. So they work well together, and that's one of the value propositions to the entire platform. It's you're getting support from a lot of different people are plugging in, just like a browser plugin.
And I guess the last question I have currently is, which Rex extension were you using? So
I'm a Mac user, and I use Zowe, and so I'll just pull up the. Here's my. There it is. And so Zowe makes my 3270. I have it off the screen. That's just a lot of Mac people are using that. Yep, REST client, Python. So yeah, I don't have anything else unless you want to. Oh, I forgot to run my Python script. I should do that. I'm going to make it a little bigger. Bring my other script in here. So you got your own folder. Did you see that? Oh, it would help if I went into the right folder. I keep going into Rex. So if I have a bunch of DBAs out there that write Rex, I would say Python's the language for you. So as you can see, I try a lot of different languages. And I think Python is very similar to Rex. And I've been heckling System Z to give us things like syscall and the things that I wrote that scraped SDSF. I'm like, man, I would love it if those are in Python. And they are saying that Z Open Automation Utility should be able to do some of that. But Python has some rich libraries. My daughter was doing some graphing, and within like a day, she had some pretty slick graphs that process data on a map. It looks like an election map, but it wasn't an election. She was counting, farms in certain counties. She was doing a little work for her grandfather. She's 15, right? So there's my little Python script there. Good day, welcome to DB2Night. I don't have very sophisticated Python. There's my my hello world. Hello, DB2Night. I should change it. Say good night, DB2. All right.
All right, I think we're down to it. Let me just take back control here for a minute and do the final question and stuff like that. And
all right.
I'll just be able to put my audience view back up here and show my last screen. But I also need now to do the final question today, which is always our big one. Did you learn something today? And I'm watching people vote, and I'm liking what I'm seeing, which is share the result, which is everybody learned something. It was a fantastic presentation, a lot of information, and a lot of good questions on it. So that's all good news.
Great.
So with that, I will thank you ever so much for a great presentation. As always, Patrick, it's great to hear you. And the information you share with our the DB2 community. And with that, I'm going to cue the music. Wish everyone a great weekend. Thank you profusely again, over and over again, as we go play the music. And we'll see you in 2 weeks for the LUW show, and next month in November, December for the DB2 Z Night Show. For Canadians, enjoy Thanksgiving, although it's all socially distanced this year. And happy Columbus Day. And bye-bye to all.